Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome. Thank you for being here for From a Place of Self, your favorite IFS podcast. My name is Dal Grunga, and I'm really glad to be here with you. Today, I wanted to talk about systems, which, when you hear the word, thinks, what? Systems? But internal family systems, each one of those words carry extraordinary power and meaning. And when we're able to understand what it means for our inner world to function like a system and the type of system which we are, it could be quite illuminating. And the reason why I find this meaningful and powerful right now is because of something that I just read recently in one of Dick Schwartz's foundational early books called simply Internal Family Systems Therapy. It's sort of the textbook that we use in some of our trainings, and it's a little bit more, you can say, dense. I don't find it dense because I find it really interesting, but unless you have a real passion for understanding the intricacies of internal family systems on a deep level, it's not light reading, so to speak. But he talks about what it means for something to be a system. And granted, again, Dick Schwartz developed the internal family systems model because of his time and experience working in external family systems. And how, when we might strive as a therapist or a coach, or you're trying to work with an individual and improve their life in some way, but unless you address the systems in which they live and exist and function, it'll become very difficult, if not impossible, to make individual changes. And the most immediate system that we live within is the family system, right? Our family system, whether it's our family of origin or whether it's our modern nuclear family of a spouse and kids or whatever our living situation may be, or the family in which we grew up. We also live in larger, broader systems of social systems, political systems, government systems, nations, companies, etc. Um, and we function within those systems accordingly. We have an ability to influence and impact those systems, and those systems have a large ability to influence and impact us. An example that's given is if you're in a car. So a car itself is a system of parts, right? You have the carburetor, and you have the engine, and you have the brakes, and you have the different parts of the system, which in and of themselves, the parts don't make a system, but when the parts come together and function in a patterned way for a common purpose of running and functioning as a car, they become a system that can now be used for something in the world. And we are the driver of that car. And so similarly, our mind-body system is a vehicle that we use in order to function and express ourselves in the world. And if we compare it to a car, the car is like a system. When we merge onto a highway, we are now within the constraints of that system. Meaning, if another car decides to get in an accident or slow down in front of us, it can impact the traffic on the entire highway. Similarly, if there are very little cars on the road, it's an open highway, there's more openness for us to drive and to experience freedom on the road. There are still rules and laws which constrain the way in which we can move in order to preserve a greater level of collective safety, right? And similarly, we impact that, right? If we're speeding or we're slowing down or we crash or we change lanes, suddenly we impact those around us. So recognizing the idea of systems is extraordinarily crucial for us to engage on our individual healing journey. And that itself can be a that itself can be a powerful exercise. Just recognizing what are the systems within which I exist and interact. And there are some systems which there's this term cybernetic systems. I think I'm getting that right. Cybernetic systems, which makes it seem like something that will come alive and destroy you, like in Terminator. The cybernetic systems are revolting, sir. No, the cybernetic system literally means, which in some ways makes sense in the AI world, a cybernetic system is something that's able to detect and adapt to external stimuli in order to bring the system back to a level of homeostasis. So if we go back to the car analogy as an example, A cybernetic system would be your thermostat or your cruise control, where you set a particular homeostasis level, and then whenever the conditions externally move you outside of that, it gets really cold, the thermostat kicks in and it brings you back to the desired temperature. Or let's say you hit your cruise control at a certain level, you start to go up a steep incline, the cruise control kicks in to make the machine work harder in order to maintain the speed in which you set. So there are systems that just function as they are with no awareness of the outside stimuli and external influences. And then there are systems that have the ability to detect and respond to external stimuli in order to bring us back to a state of homeostasis. Now, human systems, this is where I want to go to today. Human systems, I'm going to read this for you from the Internal Family Systems Therapy book. It says, let's see if I can hold a microphone and read this at the same time. I can. The way in which human systems differ from mechanical systems is key to the IFS model. A basic premise of IFS is that people have an innate drive toward wisdom about their own health. Have an innate drive toward and wisdom about their own health. This is the key sentence here. We not only try to maintain steady states and reactive feedback, we also strive toward creativity and intimacy. I'm going to say that again. We not only try to maintain steady states and reactive feedback, we also strive toward creativity and intimacy. We come fully equipped to lead harmonious internal and external lives. From this basic premise, it follows that people have chronic problems because their inner resources and wisdom are not being fully addressed. Elements of the systems in which we are embedded or that are embedded within us often constrain our access to our inner resources. IFS therapy is designed to help people find and release these constraints. When I read that, I stopped and felt how powerful it was to introduce a premise into our lives that we could have it all, so to speak, and still not feel fulfilled and satisfied. And we can also have very little and feel completely content and at peace with our lives. Why is that? Because we are built for purpose and intimacy. We are built to express creativity and contribution in the world. And we're sold an idea of what that's supposed to look like. And what happens is many of us end up chasing the idea of what it's supposed to look like, and we end up getting the externals of what we think it was supposed to look like, but we're not actually from that place in ourself, contacting and connecting with our true essence and connecting and expressing that in the world around us. And that doesn't have to be grand or big or anything other than a genuine connection to and expression of our authentic selves out into the world. And the good news is we are built to know how to do that. What happens, though, is we come up against constraints in the external world and the internal world. And what IFS does, what any genuine healing modality does, what genuine spiritual life and practice and teachings are meant to do, is simply not fix us, not implant within us something that is not already there and inherent within us, but simply to identify and remove the constraints which are keeping that natural flow from happening. It's based on the premise that you are inherently whole. You are inherently equipped and resourced to live your best life. And oftentimes we have a mistake of what we think are our constraints. If you know my story, you know I spent several years in Al-Anon, which is a 12-step program, basically for codependency, specifically in relation to people who have an alcoholic loved one in their life. And it began from the wives of the founders of AA when they thought that they would be happy once their partners became sober. And they realized that once their partners became sober, they still had issues internally that were theirs, that belonged to them. And they became so overly fixated on the idea that I need to change this other person in order for me to feel the way I want to feel about my life. And that's a false premise. So while there are sometimes external constraints that need to be released or adjusted, changes we need to make in our life, thoughtful decisions about the people that we allow into our life. Glennon Doyle used the beautiful example like a moat, right? There's a moat around our being, and there's a drawbridge that we can lower to let people in. And oftentimes, a lack of boundaries and anger arise when we're not in control of that drawbridge being lowered or raised, and we don't use our intelligence and discrimination to know who to let into the inner chambers of our life and the various levels of drawbridges in our life. So part of maturity and growing up and applying spirituality in our life and healing practices is knowing who to let into certain chambers of our life. And we get wounded and traumatized and feel betrayal when we don't exercise that or when other people abuse that. And then as we grow, we learn, yes, we do need to have certain boundaries in our lives. At the same time, if my understanding of my wholeness and completeness rests on an external factor changing or dropping into place, then I've missed the point and there's something off that I need to go back and shift. I can't be happy unless I get this job or career, unless they love me back, unless I have X, Y, and Z external factor. Then we have some sort of false premise that is incongruent with the idea that we ourselves, as ourself, are fully resourced and capable as we are to experience wholeness, contentness, peace, love, belonging, acceptance, joy, and fulfillment. And the internal family systems model focuses first and foremost on the internal relationships in our lives, meaning what's going on inside here, inside my own mind and heart. What are the parts of me that have been burdened and wounded and have taken on extreme roles in order to respond to those wounds and burdens, and therefore have left me with a burdened system, which is filled with all kinds of constraints. And when we just simply go in and bring compassionate, curious, calm, connected presence, those stressed parts of ourselves naturally just soften and feel a relief and a relaxation. And as that starts to happen, we don't have to bring in anything because it's already there. And it's like the dam of a river. You don't have to bring in more water. You just need to start removing the blockages that are preventing the stream from flowing. And there's a process for that. And it takes its own time and its own way and sensitivities. But that's what it means for us to have an internal family system, which means that the parts of us function in a way where they're designed to move and yearn towards creativity and expression and connection. And they have that inbuilt. And if that sounds too hard, or if that sounds too fantastical or good for you, everybody else can have that, but not me, there's just parts of me that are afraid to believe it, that have been let down too much. Your true self has all the time in the world. Your true self is patient. Your true self is confident. Your true self is understanding and forgiving and doesn't have any agenda other than wanting to do what is needed and help in the way that your system needs. So, with that said, I'd like to invite you to start to notice the systems in which you exist in your life and start to notice the patterns and the systems in your internal world. Start to get to know the parts of you that get activated as you're hearing this message, the ones that get excited, the ones that resonate with it, the one that thinks it's a bunch of BS, the ones that are doubtful, the ones that aren't able to hear it and think, I just want to move on to something else. I can't stand here anymore. It's been 15 and a half minutes in this podcast. I got to move on to the next thing. The ones that are restless, doubtful, worried, and how they impact each other. And what do those parts need in order to feel safe and relaxed and able to just give a little bit more space so that your true authentic self can step forward and be the light, be the leader in your system so that your system can naturally flow towards where it knows it needs to be, where it needs to go, how it needs to function, and be connected to self and to spirit, which is the greater collective field of self-energy that we're all connected to. So I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm happy to share these messages with you. Please do be in touch. Please feel free to write me anytime at dial@consciousearthinstitute.com. Please feel free to check all the links in the program description to see all the cool and exciting things that my wife and I have going on that we'd love to invite you to, including our recently launched healing platform, which is an opportunity for you to be able to experience healing in a small contained group setting, get resources, meditations, as well as educational pieces from us. We have a lot of other exciting things going on that is our effort to support you in your healing journey. So please do stay in touch. Please be in touch. Please share something that resonated with you with a friend. Tag me on social media, and I'd love to keep the conversation going. Take care, and bye-bye.